Draft Award 22 is here. People, it's time to win again.
This is the time for us to draft until we draft. That must be our slogan and rallying cry now. And along the way, we should be asking ourselves some critical questions.
Are we still enjoying 3 square meals a day? While our boys on the ground lack the basic gear they need to resist the occupiers?
Are we still living a life of luxury and comfort? While our brave restoration forces lack medical supplies at the home front?
Are we still throwing big birthday bashes while our restoration forces lack basic communication equipment to maximize their efforts?
Are we still going on cruises and expensive vacations while our IDFs on the ground go without food and logistics?
Are we still finding excuses not to make the necessary sacrifices and drafting big while our restoration forces lack the game-changing equipment that they so desperately need to bleed the enemy?
On a daily basis, how much are we putting aside for our liberation, knowing that only through the fierce resistance are we going to liberate our beloved country?
Are we providing the federal government and the CIC the means to carry out some of the critical, intelligence and other special operations across the national territory?
As we ponder these questions, we must remember that a goal that is not funded is nothing but a wish. And we must not let Ambazonia die as a wish, because we failed to fulfill our patriotic duties by making the great sacrifices befitting a great people.
The War Draft once more is coming to your county. Stand up and be counted. No greater victory was ever achieved than by greater sacrifices. We are enough, so let's draft, and draft until we drop. Our existence as a people depend on that.
It is Award 22. Let us draft until we drop.
The number one most important thing for every Ambazonian to do right now is to draft. Draft and draft and draft. People of Ambazonia, draft.
Why the war draft is a must now. Fellow Ambazonians, after 5 years of relentlessly fighting for the liberation of our homeland from the genocidal occupation of French Cameroon, the media greatly influences society. They inform people about what is happening. It permeates people's lives by creating their own criteria and opinions. In this way, the media moves the masses, creating different social movements.
For over 60 years, the people of Ambazonia were deprived of such privileges. The privilege to enhance their own criteria and opinion. They have suffered cultural genocide for 6 long decades, but not in this age and not with Undaunted ABC Amba News on board.
You must understand that wars are fought and won in the media. The speed of the revolution and Ambazonia's quest for freedom cannot be explained without highlighting the diligent use of the media.
Franco-Cameroon colonizers, among other strategic moves, weaponized the media against Ambazonia for so long, and they continue to do so even today. The question would be, how much do the oppressed people of Ambazonia need to counter the media rage?
Indeed, how much more is required to stop the genocide? The carnage in Ambazonia didn't start today. In 1961, 1972, 1984, 1992, Ambazonians were slaughtered in huge numbers and help was not forthcoming. Why? Because the oppressor was the piper in the media.
The good news is we have what it takes to dictate the pace.
Right now, ABC Amba TV is taking advantage of the wonders of multimedia aggressively
to inform the misinformed and disinformed with Undaunted and other revolutionary programs bringing it to the news untold stories.
Most importantly, to win the media war by taking ABC Amba TV into every multimedia platform.
In a word, where the importance of storytelling can never be overemphasized, Ambazonians has to tell her own story, not the other way round.
And like we say it always, Ambazonia must narrate her story accurately. We can do this together, you know, right? You are just a click away. Visit our website at www.abcambatv.com, and the steps are quite simple.
With just a click on the website, you can become a club member with so many benefits.
You can also make a one-time donation, advertise and showcase your goods and services at the marketplace on the website.
That was easy, right? You're welcome on board.
And thank you for opting for the winning team. Good evening and welcome to Undaunted, bringing into the news untold stories. I am Star Smart. Let's begin. Mezam County made us all proud. The great Mezam County did it once again greatly and drafted bigly. It was groundbreaking. $251,100 raised last Saturday by mighty Mezam with the diligent support from all other counties that make up the Federal Republic of Ambazonia is a milestone in the liberation struggle, as this guarantees a way forward for Ambazonians' quest for freedom. There is no doubt that firepower will definitely increase at the home front. It is a common saying in Ambazonia that once Bamenda has decided, there is no turning back. Your revolutionary spirit is the reason why the enemy has come a long way to fear our collective resolve. You are a people whose resilience is relentless, whose determination is ferocious, and who put their money where their mouth is. These sweet words are the words of the President of the Federal Republic of Ambazonia. The man Ambazonian believes is the God sent. He is the mobilizer, the fundraiser, and the game changer. Over and over again, he has done it hugely. History has it that no Ambazonian leader has been able to galvanize both human and material resources like President Sako, a progeny of Kuvi Lekenye, the Mountain King. As we process his speech, the energy it brought into Mezam tonight, we will spy into La République du Cameroon. French President Emmanuel Macron pays his first visit to the French province in the Gulf of Guinea, La République du Cameroon. Why now? Our intelligence has it that the objective of this extraordinary visit is to anoint the next president, since the incumbent octogenarian Paul Bartholomew B. Vundobia may just be counting his last days. Macron and his foreign policies under our radar. In tonight's Undaunted, we will examine why and how France tries new tactics after losing influence in West Africa. Afraid of losing territory in region, France has started applying newly updated, unethical, neo-colonialist strategies. Yamagi Kilo of Funtem Neba attempts another round for manipulation, but Dr. Patience Abiedu, Secretary of State for Women's Services, counters. I know you want details, but first, let's get the prime headlines.
Prime headlines for today, Monday, 18th July 2022. We'll start with a full analysis of President Samuel Ikome's speech during the Mezam County draft. Another phone has been kidnapped in Womb local government area, Mezam County. Yamagi Kilo of Neba Fontem has tried to manipulate Ambazonians into fund drive, but Dr. Patience Abiedu was vigilant enough to place some checks. Today we will be discussing bike riders as they accuse authorities in La Republic du Cameroon of indulging in anti-peace projects in southern Cameroon. Colonial French President Emmanuel Macron to impose Paul Biya-San-Franck as next president of La Republic du Cameroon. Mezam County has set the pace for the Award 22, drafting with a whooping sum of $251,100. And in sports, Barcelona announced the signing of Robert Lewandowski. Over the past few weeks, we have continuously highlighted the plight of bikers being harassed by the military in La Republic du Cameroon. We here on Undaunted brings to you updates on the punishment the colonial authorities of La Republic du Cameroon is imposing on the people of the Midland region of Ambazonia-Bamenda. Military officers of the colonial Yaoundé in the Midland region of Ambazonia-Bamenda are on an operation that we have labeled Operation No Commercial Motorbike. They do this by seizing motorbikes without any justifications. Commercial motorbike riders are now miserable and can't afford to feed their families as their bike source of livelihood have been arrogated by these heartless La Republic du Cameroon military. Undaunted have spoken with some of these bike riders as well as some civil society activists on the issue. Their reactions are part of this report. Is this not a plan to radicalize southern Cameroonian youth and call them terrorists? Why deprive people of their only means of livelihood? This can only be a demonstration of the unholy plans La Republic du Cameroon is having against southern Cameroon. This is where we will begin the full briefings of Undaunted tonight. As always, Stir Smart is here. Good evening, Stir.
Good evening, Onyi. Ladies and gentlemen, fellow Ambazonians, good evening. Commercial bike riders in the restive Midland region capital of Bamenda have accused colonial authorities of indulging in anti-peace moves by instituting a move to impound bikes in the town. The bone in the throat here is the confiscation of hundreds of bikes by security forces in a move that started on July 7, 2022 without any prior notification. The riders whose activities have greatly been affected by the ongoing war declared by the colonial La Republique du Cameroon regime head rocking southern Cameroon say they are facing some of the most challenging moments of their lives, triggered by the confiscation of what they describe as their only source of living. The exercise has stalled circulation in Bamenda, a situation that has been compounded by deplorable roads. The seizure of motorbikes, the bikers said, has rendered many of them jobless with no other means to provide for their families. Many have lamented that their families are now starving because of the seizure of their bikes, with tears running down their cheeks. One of the victims explained what he went through to acquire the bike that has now been confiscated. He said, I worked in construction sites, I hawked bread in Douala and did other menial jobs just to raise money for that bike. We were never warned, nothing was said about places we should not venture into, yet they just came in out of nowhere, started collecting our bikes at gunpoint. How will I take care of my family? His name is Manfred, and this was his lament. Onya, you know what? With all this happening, where do you think guys will go, or what would they do?
You know, this is very painful and sad as well, because their bikes were a source of distraction from evil deeds and a source of livelihood as well to them. The colonial authorities have just given them a reason to become bad citizens. That's if they choose, because their activities will be of no good to the society. Evil society activists who opted for anonymity also said this as well. Now, the population of Bamenda, main town of the Midland region, is lamenting the colonial authorities on their part have maintained a sealed lips while motorbikes are being impounded in the town of Bamenda. The only way to save the youth of southern Cameroon is to come out of the hands of the imperialist La République du Cameroon regime. Amnesty International wants La République du Cameroon authorities to end threats on activists exposing human rights violation in southern Cameroon and in Ambazonia. Gab Ellison has the full details of that report from Amnesty International.
Amnesty International warned La République du Cameroon authorities to end threats on activists exposing human rights violations in southern Cameroon's Ambazonia. The La République authorities must ensure that human rights defenders are able to work free of intimidation and reprisals. Amnesty International has said after receiving reports that activists are being targeted with death threats for exposing human rights violations and abuses in Ambazonia. The individuals targeted include 7 human rights defenders and a cyber activist, all of whom had been documenting human rights violations and abuses in all of Ambazonia, from the northern zone to the southern zone, which are facing clashes between the occupying forces and Ambazonian restoration fighters. Amnesty International is calling on La République du Cameroon authorities to guarantee the safety of these human rights defenders and ensure they can continue carrying out their work in a safe and enabling environment. Samira Daoud, Regional Director for West and Central Africa, said in a statement, "The French Cameroon authorities must urgently launch a thorough, independent and effective investigation into these threats and other abuses committed against human rights defenders." Unrelenting death threats. Akem Kelvin Nkwane, a human rights officer at the Center of Human Rights and Democracy in Africa, CHRDA, an organization that has documented human rights violations and abuses by all parties to the conflict, told Amnesty International he received several death threats from alleged armed separatists. The first threat came on 24 May 2022, shortly after Nkwane wrote on Twitter about a child killed by an improvised explosive device (IED) allegedly planted by separatist fighters in Kumbo in the Savannah Zone. On 16 June 2022, he received calls and messages featuring photos of a captured policeman, dead civilians, bullets, guns, armed group members, and an image of himself being marked for killing. One of the messages said, "We declare you and your whole entire family as traitors and enemies to the Ambazonian fighters. Until we reach your house, let that money bring you back to life when you get shot and killed." Felix Abor, a human rights lawyer and founder of the CHRDA, also received multiple death threats from alleged armed separatists by phone and on social media. In reaction to his participation in a conference in Toronto organized by the Coalition for Dialogue and Negotiations, a US-based NGO focusing on the conflict in southern Cameroon between 29 October and 1 November 2021. Abductions. On April 22, 2022, 4 UN special rapporteurs focusing on human rights defenders, extrajudicial executions, the right to freedom of expression, and the right to association, wrote to colonial French Cameroon octogenarian President Paul Biya, raising concerns over repeated death threats sent since 2015 to the president and the lawyer of the organic farming for gorillas, OFGO. OFGO has exposed abuses by businesses in the southern Cameroon's Ambazonia. In May 2021, the lawyer received death threats by phone, and on 6 November 2021, he escaped an abduction attempt at his home in Bamenda, LGA. He was also reportedly abducted from his home and released 2 hours later on 19 February 2019. In a report released in January 2021, final warning, death threats and killings of human rights defenders, the UN Special Rapporteur on the situation of human rights defenders detailed the threats against him. In addition, his brother was also abducted and tortured on 16 May 2019 and on 27 March 2020 as a way to intimidate him. His brother-in-law was also shot twice in the leg by unknown individuals in his presence. Several complaints have been filed in previous years by Off-Go lawyer, but according to Off-Go officials, the colonial authorities have failed to launch an investigation. In May 2022, Nzui Manto, a cyber activist working from outside Cameroon, was forced to leave the African country where he was living after the La République du Cameroun authorities identified him following information shared by the local police that raised fears of repatriation. Nzui Manto told Amnesty International he started receiving death threats on social media at the beginning of 2019 since he published information about the La République du Cameroun Colonial Army's losses in Ambazonia. On 28 May 2022, he received a message from a fake Facebook profile saying, "One day you will come across me, I will kill you like nothing." Tante Amadou Ngampawe, a human rights defender for Conscience Africaine, a La République du Cameroun-based NGO, told Amnesty International he began receiving death threats after attending a press conference in Yaoundé on 18 May 2020. The event, which was organized by a coalition of civil society organizations, shared findings from a report on the Ngarbu massacre, in which more than 20 civilians were killed during a military operation on 13th and 14th February 2020. 2 days later, after Tante published the report on Facebook, an unknown person messaged him on Facebook saying he better stop such activities because this is obviously the first and the last time. I am warning you on conspiring to publish false information. The next time you will be sorry for yourself. Tante received several other threatenings calls in late 2020, in July 2021 and December 2021 after he documented alleged detentions for ransom by security forces in the northern zone, and after he published a report on abductions allegedly committed by armed separatists. The apparent inaction of the La République du Cameroun authorities amid reports of abductions, intimidations, and repeated death threats is deeply concerning. French Cameroon must urgently meet its obligations under international human rights law by supporting and protecting human rights defenders and their crucial work, said Samira Daoud. It is worthy to note that most of these death threats are issued by Choayaba, and his LRC-BIRO ADF axis is very famous for all atrocities, killings, kidnappings, and ransom collection since the Ambazonian liberation struggle started over 5 years ago and counting. Gab Ellison reporting from Undaunted, ABC Amba News.
Thank you so much, Gab Ellison, for that report. Still talking about kidnapping, or should we say abduction, which we must emphasize has become a major characteristic in this struggle for freedom. Report reaching our studio tonight has it that another phone has been kidnapped in Womb local government area, Mezam County. The grim period for traditional authorities moves on unperturbed in spite of the heavy presence of the occupying La République du Cameroun colonial military. The traditional ruler of Nankom village in Ngawum local government area, Mezam County of the Savannah zone, has been kidnapped few weeks after the release of his counterpart of the Wazo village. His Royal Highness in charge Joseph Ndo, still of Womb local government area, His Royal Highness Kedzei Donatus was abducted on Tuesday, July 12, 2022 and whisked off to an unknown destination. His abduction came 24 hours after the release of 2 council workers of the Womb municipality equally abducted recently. 3 days and counting, no news of His Royal Highness Donatus reportedly abduction by men of the underworld. The sovereign ruler of Nankom Fundum on his second sojourn to the abyss of kidnappers ever since the stupid war set in. Would have been thought that he is the safest person should the colonial state security dispensation be considered.
Nankom is a neighbor to the principal administrative securing outfits in Womb, which is hosting the Colonial Gendarmerie Brigade and pelotons, both at a stone throw from his palace. Nankom Fundum equally hosts the Colonial SDO, Public Security and Special Branch Police stations, whose presence seemed to be making the life of the host restive. Being one of the persons who is a frontline fighter for the re-establishment of peace and order in Womb local government area and its environs, it is very disturbing how he could be this vulnerable. Just what the heavy colonial occupied military presence in Womb represents gives headache. Ordinarily, one would expect that the Nankom Palace, given its roadside position, be rendered safe from any aggressor. But after being abducted once and released, Fon Ketze saw the main building of his palace being torched by House of Fulani militia, seemingly teleguided by colonial security officers. And now he is kidnapped a second time. We will keep him in our prayers while we hope that the powers that work for his release will also work towards durable peace through dialogue, especially negotiated at the Swiss-led process with the interim government.
You're watching the People's Television, ABC Amba TV, the voice of Ambazonia. Stay tuned.
It is always a delight to bring to you the speech of the President. Tonight, I'll take you through the speech of the President in 4 segments.
Thank you, great people of Mezam. Thank you, Ambazonians. Let me begin by acknowledging my friend and brother, the Vice President of Ambazonia, my indefatigable Eric Ate, the Speaker of the Interim House of Representatives, Dr. Winnie Lobati, the following trusted associates of mine in central administration from this great county of Mezam are worthy of mention: Dr. Tita Emmanuel, SOS for Health and Social Services; Dr. Abiedu Patience, SOS for Women Services; Mr. Steve Nebafu, SOS for Home Affairs and Community Mobilization.
The first segment starts with the President acknowledging, in his words, friend and brother, the Vice President of the Federal Republic of Ambazonia. My indefatigable Eric Ate, he says. The Speaker of the Interim House of Representatives, Dr. Winnie Lobati, the following trusted associates of mine in central administration from the great county of Mezam, are worthy to mention: Dr. Tita Emmanuel, SOS for Health and Social Services; Dr. Abiedu Patience, SOS for Women's Services; Mr. Steve Nebafu, SOS for Home Affairs and Community Mobilization; Mr. Akemche Joseph, SOS for Finance and Resource Mobilization; Ma Manka Fokwa, Vice Chair of the Presidential Advisory Council; Mr. Blasius Awongsang, Secretary of the SIA DSS; Mr. Zama Sylvester, Secretary of SOP DSS; Barrister Fru John Nso, Amazonian State Attorney; Mr. Muma Brown, Ambassador to Asia, the Chief of the Red Feathers; all other comrades from Mezam assisting as ambassadors, country coordinators, or director at the presidency. County Local Government Area Executives, Mezam County Coordinator and Bafut Local Government Area Chair, Mr. Theo Fusi. The County Defense Officer, Wilson, Baliyonga Local Government Area Chair, Mr. Wilson Tita, the Mendankwe Local Government Area Chair, Mr. Philip Tala, Mancon Mbachongwa Local Government Area Chair Lady, and Ma Gilda Ntum Nkwain Nza Local Government Area Chair, Dr. Marcelus Atanga, Central Local Government Area Chair, Prince Chinjay, Tuba Local Government Area Chair, Mr. Constantine Yundi. Representatives in the Interim House Representatives, Bafut Local Government Area Representatives, Honorable Manji Alice Mfonyam, Baliyonga Local Government Area Representative, Honorable Richard Gambomba, Bamendankwe Local Government Area Representative, Honorable Clement Asongwe, Manko Mbanchongwa Local Government Area Representative, Honorable Dr. Charles Adetima. Nkwain Nza Local Government Area Representative, Honorable Pastor James Tita, Santa Local Government Area Representative, Constance Achu, Tuba Local Government Area Representatives, Honorable Tim Zhu, Board Chair of our National Treasury Structures, Ma Victoria Nyangi, Wounded Warrior Project Director, Ma God Yi Eye. You now understand why in a good year like this one, the rain should start in Bamenda. Please, Mezamites, if the struggle is likened to a huge burden, the interim government is rolling up a steep mountain. Just imagine how many hands from Mezam are on board with me to do the heavy lifting. If you should turn your back on this struggle, it shall be very difficult for the rest of Ambazonia. Thank you, Mezam. He concluded. That would be the first segment. Stay tuned for the second.
You're watching the People's Television, ABC Amba TV, the voice of Ambazonia. Stay tuned.
Right before we get to the second segment of the president's speech, let's give you this report. The long-awaited Mezam County draft has come and gone. Here we are with some of the major highlights of the event. Now, the event started with the Vice President's promo video. You already know that he's a worthy son of Mezam County and a huge stakeholder as far as this struggle is concerned.
The records are there and very loud and audible to the deaf. It's obvious the people of Mezam are ready to take the freedom from La Republic du Cameroon, as Ongi mentioned. Let's take a listen of the Vice President's video.
You're watching the People's Television, ABC Amba TV, the voice of Ambazonia. Stay tuned. You're watching the People's Television, ABC Amba TV, the voice of Ambazonia. Stay tuned. You're watching the People's Television, ABC Amba TV, the voice of Ambazonia. Stay tuned.
Alright, before we finish up with this report, we'll definitely play you that video. Now, Mezam County groundbreaking drafts. Of course, they set the pace with a whooping sum of $251,100. They raised last Saturday by mighty Mezam with support from all other counties that make up the Federal Republic of Ambazonia. Now, this is a milestone in the liberation struggle, as this, of course, guarantees a way forward to gain our freedom as firepower will increase on the home front. The Mezam County draft is a proof of decisiveness and the resolve of Ambazonians to gain total control of the homeland, and this grand success is a big shame to La Republic and the coup plotters and their allies that collected blood money from La Republic through Cone Pastor Christopher Anu, who paid to destabilize the Ambazonian liberation fight by spreading lies about President Sako.
You know, in his keynote address at this draft award ceremony, the President of Federal Republic of Ambazonia, His Excellency Dr. Samuel Ikome Sako, was emphatic. We are footing it bravely to Boya. We will fight till total independence of Southern Cameroons. God help us, he said. President Sako paid homage to all the fallen compatriots since Ahijo till date and ordered for a minute of silence in their honor. He admonished that Mezam is fully represented in the interim government with able men and women who make the interim government thick. He was particularly proud with movers and shakers of Mezam County, which is made up of Bamenda Local Government Area, Santa Local Government Area, Bali Local Government Area, Bafut Local Government Area, Tuba Local Government Area. Bamenda, he added, is synonymous to all Ambazonians, and, in his words, I am proud to be the #1 citizen of Bamenda. Dr. Sacco shamed all those who have used the name Bamenda wrongfully, especially the defunct SDF, but doffed his hat to leaders from time immemorial who started the move from Lagos, Enugu to Boya, in whose footsteps the struggle is being continued today. Bamenda, Dr. Sacco maintained, is the nerve center and live wire of Ambazonia. When Bamenda sneezes, Yaoundé shivers, citing J.N. Foncha, Fon Achirimbi II of Bafut, who stood for total separation, and Albert Munkong, the pioneer without crime for the sake of Ambazonian freedom.
The President of the Federal Republic of Ambazonia promised that as soon as we arrive Boya, we must revamp Cameroon Bank, Nkanga Company, Santa Coffee Estates, Bali Airport to an international airport, drive colonial forces from Bafut Airport to grant the wishes of Foncher for the College of Technology in Bambili, chance our cherished educational system as incarnated by Deacon Tatsang Wilfred. Draft and draft, because we must win this war and enter Boya. Our ancestors are looking up to us, and we must, and we cannot fail our valiant ARFs who are battling tooth and nail for our liberation, Dr. Sacco stressed amongst others. Let's give you that video.
My brothers and sisters, sons and daughters of Southern.
You're watching the People's Television, ABC Amba TV, the voice of Ambazonia. Stay tuned. You're watching the People's Television, ABC Amba TV.
Sincerest apologies for our inability to bring you that soundbite, but we have other soundbites for you this night. Now, on the aspect of raising resources to fund the liberation movement, it would appear that some politicians wish to take advantage of the current state of the liberation movement for personal gains and or for perhaps an evil agenda.
You know, this time around, it was Maggie Kilo of Nemba Fontem, who is being engineered by Fontem himself and some individuals who are also known for their dislike of the interim government, led by Dr. Samuel Ikome Sacco. Maggie Kilo sent out an audio over the weekend I am sure you wish to watch. Let's have that video now. Maggie.
Cameroons. On Saturday, 23rd July 2022, for the Southern Cameroons International Town Hall, we go launch the War Relief Fund, the WRF. That fund, it be na for help we, for hurry up and end this war, finish this war one time, so that we fit start that big work where we'll get them for rebuild we country we don't be devastated by this war. We picking them, if we go back for school, we IDPs and we refugees and return home, and we young people them, if we come back for can start their life over, thrive for a beautiful, peaceful, prosperous and free country. The objective for this War Relief Fund now for help with sons, for concentrate on that palaver for finish that war once and for all. If we fit provide resources for them, it be now for help them, for stop the kidnapping, for build better relations where they get on with communities, for motivate with people then for come back, contribute for sustainable manner for end this struggle. We want to provide the material needs of these our valiant sons, where they don't defend we homeland for the past 6 years and counting. For make their feet help their own families. We invite our best human resources, when are the wealth we will get and for we country, for come together, make we finalize the plan for rebuild our country, and we budget them. Every time you hear long live Southern Cameroons, short live the struggle, that the thing is what we mean. I want to thank Puna, all these with sons and daughters when they don't join for begin to make their contribution as soon as they hear this message. And I want to call on everybody for put small things inside this we struggle, so that make we cross this last mile. God bless everybody, and see you all on Saturday 23rd for the town hall for launch this week, WRF War Relief Fund. God bless you.
Now, interestingly and proactively, the Secretary of State for Women's Services reacted. Dr. Patience Abiodun had something for us all as well.
My mothers and fathers, sons and daughters, brothers and sisters, fellow Ambazonians, fellow Southern Cameroonians, this is my Patience Abiodun. I came across an audio by Ya Magi Kilo asking Southern Cameroonians to participate in the launching of the Southern Cameroon's War Relief Fund on July 23, 2022. She mentioned that this relief fund will do the following: rebuild our country, help our children go back to school, help bring back IDPs and refugees, and give our youth a chance to thrive in a beautiful, peaceful, and prosperous free country. The funds will be used specifically to stop kidnapping and help our boys build better relations with the communities and provide material needs for them and their families. Here is my brief response to Ya Magi Kilo, and a message to you all to shine your eyes. But before I go further, as a mother, I want to pause for a second and say that a Field Marshal of Libya has been killed. I am saddened by the news, even though he had disowned the government that he was part of and that supported him for over 4 years. However, if he is not dead and it is a political maneuver by the enemy, the good God that has guided Ambazonia so far will reveal the truth soon. Now, with regards to Ya Magi's message, she is a member of the Southern Cameroon's International Town Hall platform, a forum created by Dr. Fontem Neba. One must realize that individuals who never refer to us as Ambazonians, but as Southern Cameroonians, are either federalists or unionists. Why would any true Ambazonian or Southern Cameroonian fighting for our freedom talk about war relief at this time? Is the war over? Please do not be deceived. There are two paths to Boya. One is through federation, which is the purpose of this war relief fund, with Boya the capital. And the second is through outright independence, which is the purpose of the Amazonia War Draft. The war draft started on July 16th with Mezam and raised over $250,000. We must remember that the international community has pronounced through different resolutions that the root causes of the war or conflict without preconditions must be examined to find a peaceful and permanent lasting solution. And the Swiss-led process, for now, is the only route for this to happen. Ya Magi Kilo never mentioned this in her audio. We have lost over 40,000 lives and the War Relief Fund will not bring those lives back, but make Southern Cameroonians permanent slaves under the construct of an indivisible Cameroon. My people, you must support only the Ambazonia War Draft to achieve a free Southern Cameroons, a free Ambazonian for our children, our great-grandchildren. Long live the Federal Republic of Ambazonia, short live the struggle.
I'm sure you've all heard the both voiceovers from Maggie Kilo and Dr. Patience Abiedu. And one can tell from the constructive observations Dr. Patience Abiedu made that really indeed what Maggie Kilo is asking for is really not for Ambazonia. Well, only the pretext some of these groups and individuals are using is the rhetoric of unity. I wonder if there's any other unity platform that will be more than 3 Amba peace plan, securing and mobilizing your county's local government area by local government area. That's the master, the plan that has been tried and it continues to work. We were perusing social media and many Ambazonians reacted, but Ambazonian activist Nelson Uchiba, also known as UN's article, caught our attention. He writes, and I'll read. He says, reasons why genuine Ambazonians must reject and object the so-called Southern Cameroon's International Town Hall. Fellow Ambazonians, not all that glitters is gold. The name Southern Cameroon's International Town Hall might sound attractive to you because you hear Southern Cameroons and International. But this is evil, he says. These are disguised unionists for one Cameroon, just like the Coalition for Dialogue and Negotiations. Judge them for who they are and their activities.
UN, thus Ochiba Nelson, continues and he says, one of the main founders of the Southern Cameroon's International Town Hall is Fortem Neber, who like Baler and Mimi Mefo were released from jail with a special mission to fight against Ambazonia. Fortem Neber and Akura once removed the word independence from SCLC minutes that were supposed to be handed to Swiss HD. In one of their town hall meetings, Fortem convinced V.Y. Bangui and Chris Bongam to confess and repent so that the government of La République du Cameroon can forgive them, and they did and abandoned the fight. They also asked Ntiajo to advise Marianta so she can join and work with ADF and the SCADEF for peace to return in Cameroon. Professor Kausin Ayangwe, who once said Ambazonians should dissolve the government or lose it all, is always their guest speaker. Today, Dr. Maggie Kilo is calling for a war relief fund, just like La République du Cameroon reconstruction, meaning the Southern Cameroon's international town hall activities are geared towards one Cameroon and must be boycotted, rejected, and condemned by all genuine Ambazonians. Our people have not been killed, villages destroyed for us to settle with La République du Cameroon. Never again with La République du Cameroon. God bless Ambazonia.
Perhaps I should just add by letting us know how SCLC was formed and what Dr. Fortem did dismantle it. Neba Fortem, SCITH, and the Maggie Kilo connection. Fortem Neba surfaced in the USA in 2018, the same year Sissoko Ayuk Julius Tabe and his cabinet were abducted. In April of 2019, just before ASSC1, he convened ASCPC, the All Southern Cameroon's People's Conference, in Washington, D.C. with the assistance of Karsin Anyangwe, David Makongo, John Mba Akuro, with a goal to reject negotiations. Remember, ACT was later formed on September 22, 2019. Now, what was the SCLC? The Southern Cameroon's Liberation Council, SCLC, is an Ambazonian umbrella movement aiming to unite all Anglophone groups on a common front. As of April 2019, it consists of 7 movements. Southern Cameroon's Liberation Council, established March 31, 2019.
The SCLC was established just before the All Southern Cameroon's People's General Conference in Washington, D.C. The conference was open to both separatists and federalists and was attended by the interim government of Ambazonia, the Southern Cameroon's National Council, Southern Cameroon Civil Society Consortium, Republic of Ambazonia, the African People's Liberation Movement, and Morix. Remember that Fontaine-Neber, with instruction from Ayuk Tabe, fired President Sako from SCLC, although he had no powers to do so.
Fontaine-Neber finally created another platform called Southern Cameroon's International Town Hall, where unionists, federalists, and independentists are welcome to share their aspirations. Yamage Kilo is regularly featured at the SCITH and shares the same vision as Fontaine-Neber, a peaceful Southern Cameroon with capital Buea within the construct of a one Cameroon federation. What's therefore the moral integrity of the Yamagi Kilo's fundraiser? The answer is all yours to give. Right after the break, we will get back on the speech of last Saturday.
You're watching the People's Television, ABC Amba TV, the voice of Ambazonia. Stay tuned. You're watching the People's Television, ABC Amba TV, the voice of Ambazonia. Stay tuned.
And now the second segment of the President's address to Mezam County during Draft Day, July 16, 2022.
My dear people of Mezam, your hospitality and generosity are boundless. My communion with you today for this special patriotic duty we are gathered here to perform is unique. I have often described this county as the epicenter of our resistance movement. It is a common saying in Ambazonia that once Bamenda has decided, there's no turning back. The draft is the partnership obligation by the diaspora towards the home front.
You know, reading the words of the president is usually quite inspiring. I'll just read through. He says, "My dear people of Mezam, fellow Ambazonians, here we are today in the great county of Mezam to kickstart the county rounds for Award 22 after the successful national launch that took place on the 4th of June 2022. It is only befitting for us to start this special event by reflecting on over 45,000 Ambazonians that have been slaughtered by the ruthless genocidal regime in Yaoundé. I pay special homage to all our innocent thousands, including babies and women who have been brutally butchered by the genocidal regime of Paul Biya. I pay utmost respect to our valiant vanguards, our heroes who have fallen since the launching of the armed struggle, who were killed while trying to protect their people and defend our God-given homeland. That is the true spirit of our anthem, which says we pledge our loyalty to those that bore the land with their blood. We and generations to come will forever be grateful for their sacrifices." And at this part, he gave a moment of silence in their honor. He continued to say, "The blood you shed for our freedom will always count as the full price of the unconditional independence of Ambazonians." Fellow Ambazonians, here in Bamenda, in the great Mezam County, no one can be in this county and not feel at home. Your hospitality and generosity are boundless. My communion with you today for this special patriotic duty we are gathered here to perform is unique. I have often described this county as the epicenter of our resistance movement, he said. It is a common saying in Ambazonia that once Bamenda has decided, there is no turning back. Your revolutionary spirit is the reason why the enemy has come a long way to fear our collective resolve. You are a people whose resilience is relentless, whose determination is ferocious, and who put their money where their mouth is. I say this with empirical evidence from the history of our liberation to the recent numbers of our last 2 consecutive drafts. Your works stand out as a monument for generation hereafter to attest. I am confident today that as we accomplish this revolutionary task, you will do so with a greater sense of duty, knowing that the success of our endeavor hangs desperately on the sacrifices of those who still have their hands on the plow, not on the whims of those who have now joined the queues of deception, the bench of spectators, or the circles of vain talkers. Fellow comrades, the 1994 Bamenda Proclamation at AAC2 was the last option we gave the enemy to make right the wrongs of the 60s, or else the zero option would be inevitable. The endurance and patience of our forebears were looked upon by the enemy as a collective weakness while they plundered our resources and subjugated us at the same time. Little did they know that our patience was not so elastic, that a Joshua generation will rise one day to take up the lead of our liberation charge based on the zero option. We are that Joshua generation, and we will settle at nothing short of a free motherland Ambazonia. Remember, our sacrifice in this liberation struggle is only second to those on the home front facing the music of bullets, especially our Ambazonian restoration forces, not forgetting our refugees and IDPs in dire conditions who are hoping and praying that we fight even harder to free homeland sooner than later so that they can go home alive. As patriotic and responsible citizens of Ambazonia, our financial commitment to this sacrificial endeavor while enjoying the relative safety abroad is just the minimum we can do to free our people from this 61-year-old annexation. They should not bear the brunt and pay the tabs. The draft is the partnership obligation by the diaspora towards the home front, and there is no turning back until we reach Boya. That's why we'll take a break for now. We will be back shortly with the third segment of our able president, Dr. Samuel Ikome Sako.
This is a breaking news. You just heard the death of former Field Marshal, the King of Lebelem, Oliver. The question is, what happened? How did it happen? Who killed FMA? The killer has been uncovered. We'll leave that for exclusive discussion with our news director, Tapadi King, on Wednesday. So I'm sure that you wouldn't want to miss it. Let's all look forward to that exclusive interview. Right about now, we'll bring you the third segment of our president's speech.
Welcome back. We're here with the third segment of President Sako's address to Mezam County during draft day July 16, 2022. Here we have the president read us a poem he wrote on the 15th of this month, July 2022. He stated the poem was as a tribute to Les Femmes.
Now permit me, on another note, to read out a poem I wrote yesterday as a tribute to whom I call Les Français. They targeted Les Français to stop this train, to size down Dr. Sako or switch off the blade of our jet engine, the interim government. He was targeted from day one. Twice I tried in vain to arrest the deadly waves, but the wind had him at loggerheads with the rocks, jeopardized his revolutionary survival. And towards the other end of the tunnel, destiny helpers and many true friends he lost, was doubted by his true admirers, betrayed by handlers, and starved by deceivers. Rejected, dejected, and abandoned, he was trapped. Encouraged to reconcile with his shadows, but the heel of his enemies was bigger. Abandoned. We saw a shadow behind 33. Was that a tourist trap? But suddenly the cruel waves hit again. Or was it a nightmare? Because I don't know. But I could hear the wave crying, "Game over." I don't know. I almost said I know what happened next. But no. Or do you? Let me challenge those who plucked Lefang, or Lefang say, from our family tree with knives sharpened in Italy. It seems like yesterday, though. Please tell us now that he is alive and well. Tell me, or why not? You met a man struggling with his kids, and you thought you loved his kids better, that you can do better for them. Now you realize you can't do shit to provide them with basic survival needs. No blankets to keep the chicken safe. Please, Lefang, where are you? And where are the 7 carted from Qatar? A friend of the wise shall be wise, but a companion of fools shall be destroyed. A luta continua.
A luta continua. That was the end of his beautiful poem, and that's where we end the third segment of the President's address to Mezam County.
You're watching the People's Television, ABC Amba TV, the voice of Ambazonia. Stay tuned.
Colonial French President Emmanuel Macron is set to impose Paul Biya's son, Frank, as the next president of La République du Cameroon. It is now clearly obvious that the colonial French President Emmanuel Macron, whose eminent visit to Cameroon has been announced both by the mainstream and social media from July 25th to 27th, 2022, has as main point on the agenda to ensure that the octogenarian dictator Biya, who has been in power since 40 years, now be succeeded by his son Frank Biya. This is no longer a secret, since the corrupt Bulu-Beti ruling class, the Yaoundé junta and kingmakers had already been trying to please Nkukuma King Biya by creating what they now call the Frankist movement, a tea-free lobby first made up of all those who have emptied state coffers into their private accounts and crippled La République du Cameroon.
This group wants to use Frank Biya in exploitation, that once in power, he will cover their financial crimes as his father Biya has done. The Frankists are therefore fighting tooth and nail now that Biya's days are numbered, because they will be exposed if Biya's succession is thrown open and a strange person, or Camto and his anti-Sardinards, who have been giving Paul Biya sleepless nights, especially in Europe, step in. It is even rumored in certain quarters that Macron's coming at this point in time has been engineered by the Frankists to come as the landlord of La République du Cameroon and help them push ahead their diabolical agenda. The Frankists here are buttressed by the fact that Frank is not a member of the ruling CPDM party's Central Committee, which in the present day La République du Cameroon could unmake and make if he were. They could use the party prerogatives, but now that he is not, they must go this extra mile to bring in the true proprietor of La République du Cameroon, France, for the game.
In the light of the above, a prolific La République du Cameroon writer colleagues the BLR based in France has warned Macron that Cameroon is not Côte d'Ivoire, where France imposed Alassane Ouattara in the place of Laurent Gbagbo, the People's Choice. That Cameroon is not Gabon, where France imposed Ali Bongo to succeed the father, and that La République is not Chad, Togo, and many others. Colleagues, the BLR reminds Macron of the hundreds of thousands of Cameroonese killed by the French from Charles de Gaulle, that the wounds are still fresh from the nationalists Wanje Mumei Afana. Until date, the war declared by Paul Biya and France on Ambazonia is taking a record death toll of over 40,000 of Ambazonians sent involuntarily as refugees, over 500 homes and villages razed, yet Macron has remained mute. And France blocks UN resolutions to settle for the freedom of the Southern Cameroon's Ambazonia. France votes against Southern Cameroon's Ambazonian's recognition using its veto powers. It is regrettable that since the war declared on Ambazonia 5 years and counting, Macron has never made an official statement.
You know, this means that the Frenchman has been enjoying seeing Ambazonians die, or is he coming to Cameroon now because the dreaded field marshal of Lebelim is no more? Beware of the French in France. A program about Macron's visit in circulation on social media shows clearly that in his agenda he has to meet with some compromise opposition leaders like Kamto Maurice and Cabral Libi of La République du Cameroun and Fru Ndi of Ambazonia. Macron could discuss anything with Kamto Maurice and Cabral Libi for a one Cameroon, but the mistake is bringing Fru Ndi into the game, thinking that he could speak for the Southern Cameroonians, Ambazonia. When Fru Ndi had long mortgaged not only his party, the SDF, to La République du Cameroun, but had equally mortgaged his conscience to the same oppressors with whom he has been winning and dining for a one and indivisible Cameroon. Everything being equal, Macron's coming is a non-event for Ambazonians and a luta continua. France is trying new tactics after losing influence in West Africa. Well, Gabellison has more details on this.
Analysis. France tries new tactics after losing influence in West Africa. Afraid of losing territory in region, France has started applying newly updated, unethical, neo-colonialist strategies, economic and social problems in African countries that gained independence right after their colonialist periods provided an opportunity, an environment for neo-colonialism to advance. Including particularly France and England, colonial powers had most of the valuable resources of the continent, such as hydrocarbon reserves, telecoms, port management, administration of railways, retail trade systems, and even the contracting companies that carry on the production of the substructure. For this reason, colonial powers that granted independence to the countries at issue easily filled the power gaps that resulted from the governance crisis of countries in the continent. The words of Doudou Thiam, a former foreign affairs minister of Senegal, make the situation more meaningful. Enough. The independence that cannot go beyond the form. Unless we try to gain our economic and social sovereignty rights, we cannot reach real independence. With today's conjuncture indicating a change in Western Africa, which is also the main subject of this article, that France's fear of losing territory directs it to apply unethical methods that are updated with neo-colonial strategies. Therefore, we can claim that this case is happening in two ways. The first direction is the subject of the franc CFA, which is the colonial currency, the reserves of the franc CFA and the regional Western African states, all of it during the first foundation years, half of it in the current situation, were deposited into the French Central Bank. It is also clear enough that many of the presidents who wanted to get out of the CFA region in recent years were smitten by forces supported by France. In this context, it was expressed that the states in the CFA region will abandon the colonial legacy and the ECO, the currency of the continent that is determined by the Economic Community of West African States (ECOWAS), will come into use in 2020. On the other hand, it was reported that Nigeria, Sierra Leone, Liberia, Gambia, Ghana, and Guinea refused to use the ECO as their currency during the meeting organized by the states at issue on January 17th. Actually, before the aforementioned meeting, discussions had been made about ECOWAS preparations on the currency ECO, developed after years of study, and about how France was going to use ECO and try to implement a new colonial type of system. Thus, it can be thought that this explanation is related to the subject and not a surprise. The second direction is that the lately increased terrorizing activities in Western Africa form a basis for France to keep soldiers in the related regions. Against the case in point, both African society, including the financial initiative at first, and the African diaspora in Europe are seriously reactive towards the French attitude, and they have been protesting. Communities at issue think that the military power of France, including 4,500 soldiers as part of the Barkhane operation that France has maintained since 2014 in the Sahel region, only caused an increase in both the terror and regional incapacity. The incalculable explanations of Macron, who said he will ask the leaders about the uncertainty over the increased opposition against France in the Sahel region, and the leaders of the state that France has military power in them owe him an explanation during the NATO meeting that took place on December 4, 2019, drew a significant reaction from even Africa. In this context, the president of Burkina Faso, Roch-Marc Christian Kabore, indicated that the tone of Macron is problematic and that Macron will not get anywhere with this tone. The presidents of Senegal, Mali, Nigeria, and the Ivory Coast also reacted against the tone and words of Macron. As a result of all these, French bases were protested against in a lot of African countries, and demonstrations were forbidden in some other cities before Macron's visit to Ivory Coast and Nigeria between December 2020 and 2022. Post-Sahel Summit and French concern. Upon the call of Macron, leaders of Mauritania, Chad, Mali, Nigeria, and Burkina Faso as Western African states came together as part of the G5 Sahel Summit on January 14th in the city of Pau in France's south. During the Sahel Summit hosted by Macron, counter-terrorism, the legitimacy of France in this region, new strategies, and the restructuring of the operations were discussed, with the participation of UN Secretary-General, European Council President Charles Michel, and African Union Commission Chairperson Moussa Faki Mahamat. Even though Macron trusts in a structure, it is known that America softened its support by decreasing the number of soldiers it has in Western Africa concerning the process of transformation of international politics. Because of this, the given circumstances worry France day by day, and France will increase its immoral politics in the region with the fear of losing power in the coming days. French President Emmanuel Macron waits for politically supportive explanations from African leaders towards societal reaction against the lately increased military existence of France and the countries at issue. Paris not only expects loud and clear repetition of demand and support for French existence in the territory from other Sahel states, but also wants its European allies to play active roles in the Sahel region if necessary. Moreover, even these European allies act hesitatively on the realization of the staging of a force of 500 troops called Takuba. It is known that such demand has not come from the Sahel states yet. What does French military existence in West Africa mean? Even though only 4 military bases of France are permanent all across Africa in the current situation, as in the Barkhane operation, which is the scope of the Sahel region, temporary bases are also becoming permanent in time. Although Macron claims that the French military existence in the region as part of the mentioned operation is only for African safety, it does not make it difficult to notice the reality that France is actually oppressing the countries at issue, just like a carrot-stick relation. And through this way, it aims to maintain its economic gains from the valuable resources in the region. Because of this reason, France is trying to take advantage of the terror-related activities in Africa to protect and maintain the legitimacy of its existence in the region, especially in the military field. As a matter of fact, this circumstance demonstrates that France remarkably violates the security, stability, and sovereignty of the regional states, and in this conjuncture, old neo-colonial powers like France will keep pillaging African resources. The protests of the diaspora both inside and outside Africa are seriously precious in terms of being aware of this pillage. At this point, the equation with multiple variables on the rivalry between France and England is the case in point. As a result, as former Senegalese Minister of Foreign Affairs Doudou Thiam emphasized, it has come to the time when African states consolidate their achievements in economic and social fields and say stop to this pillage. It is necessary to strike when the iron is hot, because the young and dynamic new generation of Africa has the required potential to realize these ideals. Gab Ellison reporting for Undaunted, ABC Amba News.
France projects itself as being detached from neocolonialism. In some aspects, there is reason to believe this claim. Emmanuel Macron is a French president born after the end of colonial rule. He famously called the institution a crime against humanity. During a visit to the University of Ouagadougou in Burkina Faso, he declared that, I quote, "I am from a generation that does not come and tell Africa what to do." Nevertheless, Macron has continued the tradition of French paternalism. During a speech intended to condemn neocolonialism, Macron said that, I quote, "France only wants to help her brothers and sisters to succeed and to help these African youths to conquer in future." At the 2017 G20 summit, he told a reporter that Africa's problem is, I quote, "civilizational," implying that there is something wrong with the continent. The attitude reflected in this statement highlights the greatest barrier to reaching true African sovereignty: France's continued influence in West and Central Africa.
Unlike what they did in Indochina and Algeria, France granted independence to most of its West and Central African colonies peacefully in the 1960s. Just because these new countries were independent in name, however, does not mean they were sovereign. The lack of a war separating colonial rule from statehood meant that many French systems set up to exploit their colonies remained in place. Although this type of control over the region has declined since World War II, France continues to exert economic, political, and military influence in West and Central Africa, La Francafrique. One of the ways to achieve greater African sovereignty, outdated economic system, the African Financial Community CFA, France monetary zone, which is inherently unequal and rooted in exploitative practices.
All right, let's look at the economics of La Francafrique. After World War II, the then French President Charles de Gaulle began La Francafrique, France's informal sphere of influence in Africa. Apart from secretly verting and backing African political elite, he also created French colonies in the African monetary zone. These zones, which continue to exist today as the CFA, encompasses 12 formal colonies: Benin, Burkina Faso, Cote d'Ivoire, Mali, Niger, Senegal, Togo, Cameroon, Central African Republic, Chad, and Republic of the Congo, also including Guinea-Bissau and Equatorial Guinea. Together, they account for 14% of Africa's total population, covers approximately 965,000 square miles, and represents 12% of the continent's GDP.
You know, history of the France CFA during the 1980s and early 1990s, CFA members' economies collectively stagnated due to the prolonged artificially high exchange rate. To fix this issue, the French national government, in conjunction with the International Monetary Fund, IMF, and zone countries, devalued the France CFA by 50%, so that beginning on January 1st, 1994, 100 France CFA equaled 1 French franc. In addition to bolstering exports and achieving a resurgence in West and Central African countries' positions in the global economy, the devaluation also led to the expansion of the agricultural, logging, and textile manufacturing industries. Although the devaluation had positive effects, it more importantly highlighted the inherent issues within the economic system, since those making the decision did not live within the impacted countries. They did not have to deal with the resultant spike in inflation, as well as the fear and distress that ensued. Policymakers also did not suffer from the favoring of exports over imports. Mohamed Keita, who grew up in Mali and Senegal, and whose father worked for the Central Bank of West African States, BCEAO, described the anxiety and anguish in my parents as they dreaded new hardships to come. The devaluations pointed out the inability of these regions to increase standards of living for their citizens while under the control of a foreign power.
Without tackling issues of sovereignty, the system cannot work efficiently. The monetary zone limits industrialization and economic development and discourages trade among member states. The credit to GDP ratio resets between 10 and 25% for CFA countries, but is approximately 60+% for other states in sub-Saharan Africa. The CFA franc stimulates huge capital overflows and, due to the fixed exchange rate regime, pushes that money towards Europe, often France. 11 out of the 14 CFA states are deemed least developed by the United Nations, and sub-Saharan member countries fall at the bottom of the UN Human Development Index. Concerns about the use of the monetary zones and France's role has always existed, but tensions have been rising. In 2017, the NGO SOS Pan-Africa led several protests against the CFA francs in African and European cities. The organization later announced a boycott of French goods as a symbol of Pan-Africanism. That same year, a video of Franco-Beninese activist Kemi Sibar burning a 5,000 franc CFA franc banknote led to substantial media uproar. Another anti-CFA activist, Boris Akay, said that, I quote, "We must do all it takes to ensure that the CFA is abolished forever."
And these sentiments are also voiced by African elites. In 2010, then Senegalese President Abdoulaye Wade said that after 50 years of independence, if we get our monetary power back, we will manage better. Kako Nubko, a Togolese economist and official at the West African Economic and Monetary Union, UEMOA, called the system voluntary servitude. Former international officers like Sanu Mbaye of the African Development Bank, Carlos Lopez of the UN Economic Commission for Africa, and Henry Cloud Oyima of the BGFI Bank also all critique the system. The Macron-Ouattara reform in response to rising pressure. Macron, along with Côte d'Ivoire President Alassane Ouattara, announced changes to the France CFA on December 21, 2019. Speaking at a joint press conference in Abidjan, Côte d'Ivoire with Macron, Ouattara emphasized the need to move away from the currency given its historical ties to the French colonial empire. Beginning in 2027, the 15 Economic Community of West African States, ECOWAS, countries, which include 8 France CFA members, states Benin, Burkina Faso, Côte d'Ivoire, Guinea, Guinea-Bissau, Mali, Niger, Senegal, and Togo will adopt the ECO. The reform includes additional adjustments such as those pertaining to the reserve requirement and the elimination of the French-held board position in the BCEAO.
At a surface level, the reform appears to recognize French neocolonialism and attempts to take meaningful steps towards African sovereignty. These changes, however, are only symbolic. They do not comprehensively liberate CFA countries from European dependence because the ECO will also be backed by the euro and operate under a fixed exchange rate. The change in this sense is purely nominal. This fixed exchange rate severely diminishes any influence that BECO has. As a consequence, the removal of the French presence from the board is unlikely to have any impact. The reserve requirement will also evolve when the reform goes into effect. Instead of member countries storing 50% of their reserves in the French treasury, ECOWAS states will now exercise control over their own reserves. France, however, will continue its role as guarantor. This change allows France to wield power over the reserves, but rids it of the obligation to bail out former CFA member states in the event of a crisis. Instead, countries will be referred to the IMF. France and former CFA countries will operate under a new set of rules and continue to benefit France and place African countries at a disadvantage.
Proposed changes to CFA policy. A potential solution to this problem of economic sovereignty would be to keep the current pooling principle but switch the guarantor. Since the present system is based on the concept of an external guarantee, this option would transfer monetary power from France to another institution like UEMOA and eventually ECOWAS. Taking this reform a step further, member countries could elect to both maintain the current parity with the euro and introduce complementary and non-competitive national currencies. These new currencies would increase competition in internal markets, energize domestic economies, create incentives to monetize subsistence industries, and allow easier access to credit, which is an inherent barrier embedded in the pooling principle. Over time, the fixed exchange rate regime could switch to a flexible or even an adjustable exchange rate regime. The Macron Ouattara announcement represents a needed reform, but it is just one of many that need to happen. Going forward, the challenge will be to keep the benefits of the France CFA monetary zone, namely a stable currency and low inflation, while transitioning to a new institutional system away from France, a monetary system that holds a former colonial power as the guarantor, regardless of announcements or agreements, will always ultimately fail to eradicate neocolonialism.
All right, before we get to the fourth segment of President Samuel Ikame's speech this night, remember the speech and the video of the Vice President we promised earlier. Well, we'll see that particular video, and right after that, Stir Smart will bring to us the last segment of the President's speech.
Fellow Ambazonians, the Ambazonian War Draft goes to Mezam County Saturday, July 16th at 7 p.m. Amba time.
Kambo beta onan kung lo macho kwa robanism obinyela ngogo nzopo ndu club dancer nzopo musi na club again now advance alizo loko pandela over open call na Cameroon road to Bangamia you road dancer gimmick that.
As we come together once more to rally our support towards the war effort by drafting ourselves, it must never escape us that we are the stakeholders of our revolution, that we stand to win this fight for the liberation of our homeland, Ambazonia, that as a great Mezam County, we have always given our all to make sure Ambazonia is free. As a call to duty, we call on all sons and daughters of Mezam County and all our fellow comrades from other counties to honor our fallen heroes by coming out and give their support to Mezam County. We do so because we are a determined people. We draft because we are all the custodians of our national pride and we hold high our Ambazonian flag. We draft because we say no to the continuous incursion into our territory by French Cameroon terrorist forces. We draft to send a powerful message to the Republic of Cameroon and the international community that enough is enough. Let's join our President, Dr. Samuel Ikome Sako, this Saturday, July 16th at 7 p.m. Amba time for the Mezam County Ambazonia War Draft. See you all at the draft on Saturday. May God protect our Ambazonian Restoration Forces. God bless Mezam County. Long live the Federal Republic of Ambazonia.
Give Forget the man up to the one time to me. As it put the people in the problem. In the family. That's all of us. That's all of us. Love me, I love you. 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 Oh, Go now, go now, go now, go now. Are you club now, Sidia? Will you club again now?
Our valiant Ambazonia Restoration Forces. We have won the war. Though we may have lost some battles, if those 2 weeks set out by Dictator Biya to crush us when he declared war on us in November 2017, have dragged on for more than 5 years today, it is proof that they failed and we have prevailed. They have not crushed us, not because they changed their minds to do us good, but because they can't. And you ARFs, you put love for country first and refuse to be distracted by genocidal enablers, criminal politicians, or revolutionary scavengers whose goal is to keep us in perpetual slavery under Yaoundé. I salute you all, our valiant soldiers, especially our ARFs of Mezam, and I enjoin you to stay focused and united in your commitment to defend homeland. There is no bigger patriotic duty than putting your lives on the line for country. I salute you all and thank you for your selfless sacrifices to liberate Ambazonia. No one has championed more meaningful collaborative efforts than yours truly since this liberation war started in 2017. First, it was the Ambazonia Self-Defense Council for all defense forces in Ambazonia. Then the ARFs in all 13 counties. The Unity Conference of Washington in 2018. Southern Cameroon Leadership Council in 2019. ACT, Team for Negotiation. Can someone tell me what went wrong with these initiatives? I understand the importance of unity, but let no one deceive you. Unity with those who are no longer fighting the enemy you are fighting is an act of surrender. Unity with your enemy disguised as a friend is suicide. Unity with those who imprison, disarm, and torture you to force you to join them or get killed is as dangerous as volunteering your weapon to the enemy for your protection. Unity for the sake of unity is simply insanity. You collaborate only with one who can use his last bullet to defend you if need be. There is much more external pressure now on La République to heed the Swiss-led mediation than ever. That I am telling you. Even the French are timidly putting pressure behind the scenes. There are many signs announcing a new dawn in our struggle in the year ahead. So let's remain focused and steadfast in our task of drafting. Viva the great people of Mezam County. Viva our brave Ambazonia Restoration Forces. And viva the Federal Republic of Ambazonia. Thank you very much.
And now for the final part of the President's address to Mezam County during Draft Day, July 16, 2022. He focused on the ARFs, Ambazonian Restoration Forces, and he started by saying, "Our valiant Ambazonian Restoration Forces, we have won the war. Though we may have lost some battles, if those 2 weeks set out by Dictator Biya to crush us when he declared war on us in November 2017 have dragged on for more than 5 years now, it is the proof that they failed and we have prevailed. They have not crushed us not because they changed their minds to do us good, but because they can't. Now their dream of crushing Ambazonia by the military option is more far-fetched than when they launched the war in 2017. And you ARFs, you put law for country first and refuse to be distracted by genocide enablers, criminal politicians, or revolutionary scavengers whose goal is to keep us in perpetual slavery under Yaoundé. I salute you all, our valiant soldiers, especially our ARFs of Mezam, and I enjoin you to stay focused and united in your commitments to defend your homeland. There is no bigger patriotic duty than putting your lives on the line for country. I salute you all and thank you for your selfless sacrifices to liberate Ambazonia. Talking about unity in the body of our revolution, no one has championed more meaningful collaborative efforts than yours truly since this liberation war started in 2017. First, it was the Ambazonian Self-Defense Council for all defense forces, the ARFs in all 13 counties, the Unity Conference of Washington 2018, Southern Cameroon's Leadership Council, and ACT Team for Negotiation. Can someone tell me what went wrong with these initiatives? I understand the importance of unity, or what I would prefer to call purposeful collaboration within our liberation movement. But let no one deceive you, unity with those who are no longer fighting the enemy you are fighting is an act of surrender. Unity with your enemy disguised as a friend is suicide. Unity with those who imprison, disarm, and torture you to force you to join them or get killed is as dangerous as voluntarily handing your weapons to the enemy for your protection. Unity for the sake of unity is simply insanity. It is as stupid as a hungry lion calling for a gathering of all cats and your cat also attends, expecting to be welcomed and protected. As guerrilla fighters, your survival is paramount. You cannot just collaborate, talk less of unite with people with a track record of betraying, terrorizing and killing their own fellow comrades in arms. You collaborate only with one who can use his last bullet to defend you if need be. One who can take a bullet for you and not one who will betray you or kill you for the highest bidder at every opportunity. In my recent visit to Indian County during the county tour, I made it clear that the Ambazonia Restoration Forces, ARF, which you are proudly part of, is already a unity force. That we may know that we are ARFs united in Mezam, this draft is for you all. I commend any collaboration with non-ARF forces fighting alongside ARFs to liberate homeland. However, this must be done purposefully and strategically, and that should require detailed consultation and vetting by our military intelligence unit. We know the mayhem that these random unity escapades have caused some of our devoted commanders and fighters, especially in Bouyi and here in Mezam. The briefings I get from some of the local government areas like Bali, Yonga, and Bafut are disturbing and could have been avoided if our forces had not been infiltrated by the unity pillars' confusion. They united with the wrong people, their hideouts and itineraries were exposed, some got killed and others arrested and used as guides to track more. Dear comrades in arms, brave ARFs, by now you should have learned some lessons the hard way. Let unity not be like casting a fishing net into a river and collecting everything that comes up with the net. No, you should know better by now that your interim government is there for you and have your greatest interest at heart. That is why we are here again tonight to draft for you. We count on you. Ambazonians count on you. The enemy dreads your bravery. At the beginning of this war, you were just numbers, determined compatriots struggling to grapple with what befell us. Today, you are not just members, but tested and experienced soldiers who understand the art of guerrilla warfare. You are masters of your terrain, causing sleepless nights to the genocidal enemy as you execute the sacred duty of defending homeland. I am confident that if we do our best for you tonight and we draft generously, you have what it takes to get us better results as we tackle the final phases of this liberation struggle. You drew up the plan according to our national strategic security plan, and I am confident you know how and what to do. The draft tonight will go a long way to accelerate the continuous implementation of those strategies we have in place and the new ones in the pipeline. Let me emphasize once more that the purported attacks on French Cameroon civilians perpetrated by covert La République du Cameroun military agents are just decoys to attract sympathy from their local population over an increasingly unpopular war against innocent civilians in Ambazonia. French Cameroon citizens are disgusted by their military's despicable massacre of our people and the random killing of women and children just to manipulate international opinion against our liberation cause. Almost 5 years into this war, our war has not changed in character. We are defending ourselves and our territory against annexationists. Attacks on French Cameroon civilians anywhere do not serve our interest in any way or promote our territorial objectives. Any preemptive targeted incursive attacks in enemy territory east of the Mongo during this war cannot be aimed at French Cameroon civilians who are also victims of the French colonial stranglehold. Dear compatriots in the home front, my dear people of Bafut, Bali, Mankong, Mbachomba, Bamenda Kwe, Nkwenza, Santa and Tuba local government areas, make no mistakes as we continue to bleed the enemy in terms of casualties and escalate the economic cost of this war. They are recycling the old colonial tactics of infiltrating our ranks and destabilizing us from within. Those who congregated to tear us down have already failed. You stood tall and mounted roadblocks to tell them that we own the land. When it was necessary for you to sacrifice some more in the home front with extra lockdowns, you followed instructions from the interim government. The enemy recruited some from amongst us, trumpeting lies and unfolding allegations, executed a coup d'etat against yours truly to manipulate some of the weak and under-informed amongst you who overwhelmingly resisted their challenge. You refused to be bridled by these agents of La République du Cameroun handlers who were disguised as patriots and hid amongst us. They told you Sacco is gone, that the draft is banned. Here we are today to let our actions speak louder than empty words, ready to proudly draft our substance towards those who have drafted their lives for this cause. France and La République du Cameroun have not given up on trying to divide us. Their new hope is to do all to cut off the umbilical cord between you and the home front and the interim government, also known as the diaspora. The arbitrary impose a leader on ground like the La République du Cameroun can easily buy, intimidate, kill, or manipulate to end the struggle. Thank God for Bamenda, we are smarter than they are. Dear financial warriors, let's draft to see if this liberation war is starting today. The darkest part of the night is towards dawn. Despite the numerous distractions, let's remain focused. The stakes are high. Our ARFs of Mezam are watching and waiting for us and relying almost entirely on what we will do tonight. Let's not fail them. Let's prepare and put the ball back in their court. We are continuously pushing the enemy, La République du Cameroun, to the wall with our collective resilience and raw determination. There is much more external pressure now on La République du Cameroun to heed the Swiss-led mediation than ever. Even the French are timidly putting pressure behind the scenes. There is much more external pressure now on La République du Cameroun to heed the Swiss-led mediation than ever. Even the French are timidly putting pressure behind the scenes. There are many signs announcing a new dawn in our struggle in the year ahead, so let's remain focused and steadfast in our task. Let us hit our foot on the gas and go even more aggressive against all enemy presence and positions in our territory. Let's use this next 1 year to clear our all remaining enemy posts in our territory. We know that the enemy La République du Cameroun desires to talk to us and not with us. So they are still aiming at winning the war before any talks. Let us answer them with our wallets waved high tonight. Give your thousands US dollars to tell La République du Cameroun and Macron you are wasting your time, you cannot win Ambazonia. $1,000 every draft year is just our minimum patriotic commitment to the cause. To those of you who can do more than this minimum, I strongly urge you to do so. That is what I am doing this year, the president says. Let us draft and Most importantly, let's redeem our pledges as fast as possible in order to give our forces the capability and capacity to get us to the table. Not to surrender, but to negotiate from a position of strength. Let the 2022 draft for Mezam County commence. Viva the great people of Mezam County, viva our brave Ambazonian restoration forces, viva the Federal Republic of Ambazonia, God bless Ambazonia. Samuel Ikome Sako, PhD. We've come to the end of the entire address of Mezam County by the President. Hope you enjoyed every word of it. I remain Star Smart reporting for ABC Amba News.
And in sports, is official, Robert Lewandowski has joined Barcelona from Bayern Munich with the Catalan club to pay a fixed fee of 45 million euros and a potential 5 million euros more in add-ons. Although the German club had stood firm and insisted that they wanted 50 million euros for the player, who still had 1 year of his Bayern contract, they eventually agreed to accept the 45 million euros plus 5 million euros structure. Gab Ellison has more.
Latest world sports. Official. Barcelona announces the signing of Robert Lewandowski. It's official. Robert Lewandowski has joined Barcelona from Bayern Munich with the Catalan club to pay a fixed fee of 45 million euros and a potential 5 million euros more in add-ons. Although the German club had stood firm and insisted that they wanted 50 million euros for the player who still had 1 year on his Bayern contract, they eventually agreed to accept the 45 million euros plus 5 million euros structure. Lewandowski has signed a 3-year contract that will have the option for 1 more year, while his salary will be around 9 million euros net, almost the same as what he was receiving in Germany. The Catalan club put out a statement on their official website shortly after Bayern Munich directors had also confirmed the deal. Barcelona and Bayern Munich have reached an agreement in principle for the transfer of Robert Lewandowski, dependent on the player passing a medical and contracts being signed. Barcelona's statement read, "The striker from Poland stands out for his goal-scoring abilities. Inside the box, he has all the tools to make him a difficult striker to read, as he can find the net with his head and both feet with equal precision. His technical qualities also mean that he can link up well outside the box also." Lewandowski will bring goals, experience, and know-how to the Barcelona attack. This is a big statement of intent for Barcelona and for Joan Laporta, Jordi Cruyff, and Matteo Alemany, who had been trying to sign the striker for weeks. On Friday night, the deal was eventually agreed, and Lewandowski follows Pablo Torre, Andreas Christensen, Frank Kessie, and Rafinha in the door at the Camp Nou, with his new Barcelona teammates in the USA, where they are having their pre-season tour. Rugby Union. Australia 17, England 21. Tourists seal series win over Australia. England held off Australia in the tour test in Sydney to seal a 2-1 series win, and Marcus Smith's tries either side of halftime proving decisive. The tourists started slowly and were 10-3 adrift towards the end of the first half, following Tom Wright's try, but Stewart stretched over from short range to snatch the lead before Smith grabbed a loose ball and sprinted in. Fulafanga burrowed over, but England saw off late pressure. Stewart Ellis Gang and scrum half Jack Van Poviet, a core from Premiership champions Leicester, leaped in the light as the referee's whistle blew. It's only England's second series win down under and following 2016's whitewash. That clean sweep came after a Six Nations Grand Slam and in the midst of a record-equaling winning streak. This England team is far less settled or strong, but coach Eddie Jones will hope that a memorable victory at the Sydney Cricket Ground will galvanise his team and propel them towards a testing autumn, featuring meetings with South Africa and New Zealand and next year's World Cup in France. Gab Ellison reporting for Undaunted, ABC Amba News.
And with that sports report, we have come to the end of Undaunted tonight. But before we go, here is the highlight of our major stories.
We started with a full analysis of the President Samuel Ikome Sako's speech during the Mezam County draft. Another fund has been kidnapped in Broome local government area, Mezam County. Yamagi Kilo of Neba Fontem tries to manipulate Ambazonians into phone drive, but Dr. Patience Abedu was vigilant enough to play some checks.
Also today, bike riders accuse authorities in La Republic du Cameroon of indulging in anti-peace projects in southern Cameroon. Colonial French President Emmanuel Macron is to impose Biet Saint-Franc as the next president of La Republic du Cameroon. Mezam County has set the pace for the Award 22, drafted with a whooping sum of $251,100. In sports, Barcelona has announced the signing of Robert Lewandowski. And that was it for Undaunted tonight, bringing into the news Untold Stories. On behalf of my co-anchor Stir Smart and the entire Undaunted crew, we say thank you for tuning in. I am Oni Okbala.
We'll leave you with ABC Amba TV images. Good night and God bless you.